is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
What's up, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome into today's episode of KCSN Update, presented by our friends at DraftKings Sportsbook. Use that promo code KCSN to get all the best deals from DraftKings Sportsbook. I am joined today with Sterling Holmes. I'm joined by Sterling Holmes, with Sterling Holmes. On Sterling Holmes? We'll have to see. We'll have to see later in the podcast, but you probably know him from the Arrowhead Addict podcast or Sports Radio 810 in Kansas City. Either one of them. Sterling, how have you been? It's been a minute since you've been on the program. Glad to have you back, and I'm excited to talk some Chiefs with you.
I've been hot, dude. You go outside and you melt, and yet I love it. I love doing radio, and normally I don't have to do this whole video stuff because I can just be a sweaty little man, and no one cares. No one says a word. But like this, I have to actually grab a towel and like wipe off like I'm Game 7 of the NBA Finals because I'm so sweaty. But I'm glad to be here.
I'm very glad that you were able to make some adjustments for us. Grab that towel, wipe that off, get that nice mustache trimmed and ready to go. Looking great. You look ready for the season. Mustache has come out. It means it's ready for the season. Travis Kelce does it. Andy Reid always got that stash, but
Travis Kelce stole my whole flow. Come on. I've been having the mustache way before Kelce. Come on now.
That's fair. That's fair. As long as I've known you, I think you've had a mustache. So,
yeah,
Travis, gotta catch up. But, Sterling, the last time you were on this program, we had made a friendly wager about two wide receivers. I want to kind of get a vibe check on it. You got it written down on your notes. I want to get your vibe checks on it. How you feeling about the wager? Listen, Calvin Ridley's got a lot of buzz this training camp. I'm feeling pretty good.
You know what buzz means?
What's that?
You ain't done shit yet, pal. Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to wax Calvin Ridley in total yards this year. It ain't going to be close. I like Calvin Ridley. Good dude. I'm glad he's back. You got to make sure he's not, making some illegal wagers. Okay, maybe he shouldn't be getting the promo code from KCS, and make sure if you see anything from Calvin, keep him away. Mm-hmm. But Amon-Ra St. Brown, come on now. He is going to be incredible. The Lions, top 5 in yards, points, and offensive DVOA last year. That continues, and that's because of Amon-Ra St. Brown, the Sun God.
Mm. He does have a cool name. I'm not going to disagree with that one. In the wager of who has the cooler name, I think Amon-Ra takes that one. But I'm pretty confident in Calvin Ridley. Some people call him a sleeper, which I think that's kind of crazy to call Calvin Ridley a sleeper when it comes to like fantasy stuff and everything. But no, I think we're both pretty confident in our picks. I'm very excited to see how this one unfolds. It's going to be really unfortunate if like one of them gets an injury and is like out for an extended period of time. That won't make it as fun. I really want them to be fully healthy, and I want it to be like a nail biter, right? I want it to go down to week 18 where they're both playing. And it's like, okay, I need Calvin Ridley, kind of like, that championship game of fantasy season, right? When you're like, I need Calvin Ridley to get 400 yards for me to have a chance in this game. That's going to be me.
Yeah, he's going to need about 400 yards to have a chance. Yeah, you're correct. That was a pretty good, astute observation. Good foreshadowing.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I like to pride myself on my ability to A, self-deprecate, and B, be able to foreshadow. But I'm sure you guys didn't come to this podcast to hear Sterling and I talk about two wide receivers that are not on the Kansas City Chiefs. You came to this podcast. You turned on this podcast to listen to Sterling and I talk about the Kansas City Chiefs. And I don't think, Sterling, that we can start a conversation. I think we're actually legally required to start a conversation about the Kansas City Chiefs by starting it with Chris Jones and starting it with the Chris Jones conversation. And my first question to you, Sterling, are you as fed up with this as I am?
I'm over it. I'm over talking about it. I'm over it. I'm over this entire thing. Chris Jones is tweeting like he's a high schooler. Like, I get it. We know what you want. Chris, we had so many dudes on your side. So many people in Chiefs Kingdom were on your side. And you had to tweet. When has tweeting been good for any Chiefs player? Hell, even Anthony Hitchens got caught up in it at one point. Like, come on. Stop it. It's not going to help you. All it is doing is hurting him. People are turning on him, and I get why. Now, I understand it's a millionaires versus billionaires. Who's in the wrong? Everyone wants Chris Jones here in Kansas City. I want Chris Jones here in Kansas City. But at some point, you're looking around and saying, yeah, you were top 3 DPOY last year. We get it. This is your last big contract. But also, Aaron Donald got that exuberant contract because, well, the Rams had to keep him from retiring. There was a lot of other issues at play when Aaron Donald got that contract. Now, we will probably never know the exact numbers that come out in regards to what Chris Jones is truthfully being offered. Is it 28, like some reports have said? Is it the AAV versus the guaranteed money? That's the holdup. Is it year 3, 4 versus 5? Like, we aren't privy, believe it or not, that we are not Chris Jones's agents, which, by the way, Chris Jones's agents, this is their one big dude. This is the big fish. Chris Jones is that guy. So to me, a little bit of it is, I don't think they're over their head. I think what they're doing is saying, hey, this is our one big guy. We have to make sure he gets paid. He sets the market, because then maybe we can get some other big fish to come to us. That's what's his name did in baseball for so long. He was Eric Hosmer's. He does some
Scott Boras.
Scott Boras, right? Scott Boras that for so long was, all right, just hold out. And you got all these big name guys because all the big name guys realize that he can get them money. So I'm sure there's a little bit of that at play for these agents who are saying, hey, Chris Jones, our big fish. If we hold out and he ends up getting what he wants, that makes us look a lot better.
I agree. And it's a very interesting, multifaceted conversation because I think Chris Jones held the public opinion for a while. Like, I think he was the favored one in the conversation for a long time when it came to the contract dispute between him and the Chiefs. Obviously, he remained very positive after the Super Bowl and everything like that until the minicamp holdout. It was pretty civil, and I think everyone assumed it was going to get done at some point at some level. The minicamp holdout happened, and even I can talk about myself. That's the only person I know who to talk about. And I thought, oh, okay, that's fine. Yeah, he should sit out for minicamp, right? That makes sense to sit out for minicamp. And then it kind of got closer to training camp, and nothing happened. The Quentin Williams deal came through, and I was like, okay, let's see. Tomorrow, it was a good day to sign tomorrow. It seems like that'll be a good extension. That number is really reachable. They have a number now that they can get to. That looks good. Nothing happened. And then the training camp rolled around, and I do think that was kind of where the court of public opinion swayed towards more of the team, right? I think Chris has had it for a long time. And I think people were basically like, hey, just pay him. He played well last season. He played really well. Just pay him. Keep him in Kansas City. You traded away Tyreek Hill so you could pay Chris Jones. Now it seems like the court of public opinion has swayed in the opposite direction, Sterling. I'm curious to kind of your thoughts on that. As you said, like on Twitter, like stop tweeting. Like, no, that's not gonna help you. But like, what's the point of the holdout anymore, Sterling? Because I think that's really interesting is a lot of things that keep coming out about the holdout. It seems like they can really only benefit the Chiefs except for this season in terms of cap space. But like when it comes to like next season, he's hurting himself in terms of franchise tag. If the Chiefs do end up franchise tagging him, it just seems like there isn't a point to this holdout anymore.
No, you're not going to hold out to week 8 like he said on Twitter. That's absurd. You're not missing game checks. You're not going to do this. Then you're going to get franchise tag. Then what happens? I mean, you're not going to all of a sudden hit your free agency a year removed from playing. Not only that, a year removed from your best season.
Yeah. That
ain't going to happen. Look at what happened for Le'Veon Bell. Now, again, running back and defensive tackle, 2 completely different positions. I understand the value of all that stuff. But it's not going to help Chris Jones. No one is going to see that and say, oh, you know what? Let's make him higher than Aaron Donald now. His Twitter account, just you got to stop. I don't get why players do this. It's never going to help. I think part of it started as a case of let's joke around a little bit so that we can kind of keep some pressure on the Chiefs itself. It keeps the fans involved. They know that he wants to be a Chief. He's just waiting for a great offer to come in. Yep. But eventually it gets too much. Eventually a fan will talk, and then Chris Jones just has to talk back. Let it go. Let it go, Chris. We know what you want. We know the exact thing you want. You want to be paid. You want all this money. That's what you're about. That's fine. I also want to say, I think it's a really interesting case of, you look at Mahomes, you look at Travis Kelce. This is a long-winded conversation here, so I'll get to just the tidbits here. You can make the case they're very underpaid. Now, I know $500 million, are you really underpaid? You still have the 10 years. You still have all the guaranteed money that's still untouched, right? But the AAV, Mahomes is underpaid. Do you make the case that since those 2 guys are underpaid, should Chris Jones take a pay cut? Or do you make the case of those 2 guys are underpaid, use that extra money for Chris Jones. It goes both ways.
It does. And I've seen a lot of people use, the former, what you were saying about like, hey, look, Patrick Mahomes took I don't want to say less money. He took a team friendly deal, right? And in terms when he sent his extension, Travis Kelce has always been on a team friendly deal and he is underpaid. Listen, there's no gray area in the NFL, right? There's no players that are perfectly exactly paid, right? You're either overpaid or you're underpaid. You're never going to look at a contract and say, yeah, that guy's properly paid. We never go through that. So you're either overpaid or you're underpaid. Travis Kelce historically has been underpaid. I don't believe he's ever been the number one paid tight end, but he's been the number one tight end for about, what year is it? Like 14 years. Even before he waited through the NFL. But anyway, I digress to say it's been a very interesting process with Chris Jones and the way that he's holding out. I believe there was a tweet he had tweeted out in like 2021, maybe even 2020, that if he found himself in this conversation, in this situation of trying to get this contract extension that he's in right now, that he would hold out until week 8. And he even said, I would do what Le'Veon Bell did and hold out until week 8. We know he worked out with Le'Veon Bell, I think, in Miami a few times. And Le'Veon Bell even came out and said that he regrets doing that. There's been a lot of things very much against it. And the price has only gone up for missing games since Le'Veon Bell has done it. It was like $800,000, and now it's $1.1 million. So, like, it doesn't make sense to me. It really does not.
I always laugh, too, when everyone kept saying, oh, he's going to take a team-friendly deal because he said he wants to be a Chief for life. That was politicking early on, baby. I say this every single time a player says that. Every time they say so-and-so wants to be a so-and-so for life. They do, at a certain price. It always comes down to money. They might love what they're doing being there. Tyreek Hill loved Kansas City.
He did.
Until he realized you could get $30 million AAV from the Dolphins. Chris Jones wants to be in Kansas City if he gets so-and-so from the Kansas City Chiefs. There's always that caveat. Everyone that says that, take it with a massive, massive grain of salt. I mean, get a salt lick. That's what it is, because it's not just a grain of salt, it's a salt lick. I will also point out him holding out. I'm really concerned because I don't think he holds out till week 8. I personally believe he's back week 1 against Detroit Lions. I do. I'm still in that camp of he's going to be there week 1. He's not going to hold out whether a new contract is done or not. He's not missing that money. He's not missing a game check. But my concern is if he holds out, we know the injury risk is greater. You can be in great shape. Great shape is not game shape. Now, I don't think Chris Jones is sitting on his couch watching Dumb and Dumber, drinking boxed wine and eating bonbons. I don't think that's his workout schedule. Okay? But the point is, you can be working out every single day. It's not the same as having a game action. Tucker, you played football. You played sports. Everyone listening has probably played sports growing up their entire life. You take a couple weeks off. What happens? You're still in great shape, but your legs don't feel the same. You feel just a step slow. Something just feels slightly off. It takes time before you get back into actual game shape. I'm worried about that with Chris Jones.
And I think it's a concern that not only you have, but Steve Spagnuolo even mentioned it when he was at the podium. He's like, hey, I'm sure he's working out. Like, I don't doubt that. But football shape is a lot different. And the injury risk is obviously there. And still that kind of plays into it. Is like the injury risk is there. He's 29 years old, just turned 29 years old. We know that the Chiefs' track record of paying guys who are close to that 30-year-old mark is not very good. Like they don't just dish out big contracts for guys close to that age 30 mark. A part of me wonders if it's a year's thing in terms of the contract of the Chiefs probably only want to give him maybe 2 years, 3 years at most, and he probably wants 4, maybe 5 years. That could help disperse a little bit of the AAV. But at that point, I mean, you're looking at backloading a contract to a guy who's going to be 32, 33 years old. And the drop-off at the D-tackle position happens quick. And it's not a gradual decline. It is, all right, you are here, now you are here. And I think Aaron Donald's a little bit different, right? He didn't have the year that Aaron Donald usually has, but still a very good year in terms of defensive tackles. And it's just a very interesting conundrum that the Chiefs find themselves in with Chris Jones. But Sterling, we had to take a break. I've got one more question on Chris Jones, and I'm going to ask you, I want to get your answer after the break, but I want to know, what do the Chiefs do without Chris Jones? If Chris Jones not there, what does this defense do without Chris Jones? I want to get your answer right after this.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network.
All right, Sterling, I asked you the question before the break. What do you think the Chiefs will do without Chris Jones if he's not there week 1? Are you worried about the Chiefs' defense?
Yeah. I mean, short answer, yes. That defensive line is going to be buns, man. I mean, I'm so excited about this Chiefs defense. I think they have the potential to be a top 10 defense, but it all starts with Chris Jones. This defense has been built around Chris Jones. He is a pendulum, right? When Chris Jones is on the field, it swings top 10. When Chris Jones is off the field, it's bottom 10. Now, I love the versatility that his linebacking core has. I love the versatility of the secondary. I love the depth of the secondary in the linebacking room. But the defensive line has a lot of issues, a lot of youth, and a lot of question marks. Charles Omenihu is missing 6 games. That was your veteran guy. That's great. Not ideal. He's not only good on the outside, but good on the inside. FAU, he's a rookie. We know how rookie defensive linemen, edge rushers, typically takes time for them to progress. Aiden Hutchinson took time. I know he had a great game 1, but then really look what happened. It was about halfway through the year before he took off. Kayvon Thibodeau, right, for the Giants, about halfway through the year before he took off. So expect the same thing from FAU. And, Karlaftis was the same thing. I love George Karlaftis, but we've seen Karlaftis with Chris Jones. Karlaftis is great because he's a great partner to Chris Jones, the way he plays, the motor, the strength, the power. Is Karlaftis going to be able to take on double teams and bulldoze through them? I don't think so if teams can focus in on him. I like Danny Shelton, but it's Danny Shelton, right? That's not Chris Jones. Derek Nottie might not even make this team. Turk Wharton's kneecaps are brutal. Like, I love Turk Wharton, but he can't stay healthy. Those knees are still banged up. Keandre Coburn, 6th-round rookie. Like, yeah, I'm worried as hell. Mike Dana's your most consistent guy, probably. Mike Dana and Karlaftis.
Yeah. Especially against a team like the Lions week 1. They'll run the ball. They're not scared to run the ball. They're going to be, I don't know. It's iffy. And Sterling, this is an interesting question too. He's got to report today if he's going to be in shape for week 1. I think there's not a lot of time left for him to report and be okay to play in week 1. They probably have one padded practice left before they actually play a real game that matters and open this NFL season.
Yeah. And if you're a Chiefs player, you can't be thrilled right now, man.
Oh, no.
If you're Andy Reid, you can tell he's already sick of fielding these questions. I get it. Maybe we don't know. Maybe he's not getting offered anywhere near what we think he is.
He could.
But from all things that we have heard, it's a large chunk of money that he's being offered. He is being offered the second highest paid interior defensive lineman amount of money.
Yep.
There's no question about it. That's what it's just, at some point, if you are a teammate, you've heard him talk time and time again about how he wants to be a Chief for life. You get offered that money. Still not there. Didn't do a hold-in. All these youth, all these moving pieces, talking about having the potential best defense we have seen in the Mahomes era. You're not there. Not there to be a leader. That's tough.
It's tough. It's very tough. And we talk about the messaging kind of from the other side too, from the organization's perspective. What does that send a message to the young guys, right? If you're not going to pay a guy who's been with you, who's been that cornerstone. Now this is a second contract, so it's a little bit different. A third contract, but so it's a little bit different. But
been paid.
Yeah,
he's been paid. And the issue here is, I get what you're saying, where if they don't pay Chris, will they pay me?
Right.
Well, quite frankly, no, they probably won't. And guess what? You have to understand that. It's the NFL.
Right.
What did the Patriots do?
Ship them out.
Do you think those players complained about getting rings? And then getting money after? They got their rings, got their money, and then what happened a lot of times? Well, they came back to New England and got more rings.
Yeah.
Do you think those guys complained?
Wouldn't think so.
I wouldn't think so. Yes, you're not Mahomes. You're not Travis Kelce. If you are a player and you're not literally Patrick Mahomes, the only untouchable realistically at this point,
right?
You have to have some of that understanding, okay? It's the NFL. It's a business. As much as we like to say, it's unfair and these are billionaires, we know how the game's played. It's this salary cap era. Not everyone can be the highest paid player on every single team. It's not going to happen. It does not work like that. The NFL has parity. There's a reason why the NFL is such a damn good product, because of parity. The salary cap helps that. That's why you can have Mahomes and a couple of great high-end players, but a lot of times you're going to have to cut back somewhere. The Chiefs have decided to go a little different route of, we'll have Mahomes. We can't really pay everyone else. Let's have a whole bunch of really solid players instead of 4 of the top of the line guys. It's just 2 different ways to skin a cat. I think players need to understand this. Their agents need to do a better job of letting them know this is the business of the NFL.
It is, and you talked about kind of the Chiefs' way of philosophy of building this roster around Patrick Mahomes, around Travis Kelce. One of those position groups that has also been a really big talking point has been the wide receiver room, because they traded away Tyreek Hill last year. Obviously, they win a Super Bowl. So I think for me a little bit, it seems, I don't think that this is the case. I should prelude this by saying I don't think this is actually happening. But it's almost like the Chiefs are tempting fate a little bit, right? They're like, okay, we got rid of Patrick Mahomes as the number 1 receiver. Wide receiver, I should say. Travis Kelce is always going to be the number 1 target. We got rid of that wide receiver. How far can we go? How far can we take this for Patrick Mahomes and this offense to still be good? And it feels like they're playing with it a little bit. But Sterling, all indications from this wide receiver room in these first few preseason games have been very good. I'm curious to get your thoughts on what you've seen from the receivers so far this preseason.
They all look better than Juju Smith-Schuster.
Oh.
I mean, I'm being slightly facetious. Like, I'm not taking Justin Watson over Juju Smith-Schuster, but you've seen the injury concerns with Juju. You've heard some of the things coming from Patriots camp of, wow, the wide receivers don't look great. I'm sure the Chiefs knew more than us in regards to what they thought Juju was going to do this upcoming season. There's a reason why we saw that contract, at least I personally saw that contract and said, wow, I would have given Juju way more than that. There's a reason why. They know more than us. They have the medicals. They have the statistics of when the drop-off might happen, the playing style, all of that stuff. So what the Chiefs did was, let's get some more darts. Let's get some more darts. Let's get Kadarius Toney, who had a lot of injuries, but when he's healthy, he's electric, okay? Well, he's injured right now, so take him out. He's gravy. He's the Alberto Mondesi for me right now. I love Mondesi too. That's not a slight, okay? I love Mondesi for so long.
Good comp. It really is a good comp.
Okay. Because when he plays those 30 games in baseball or the 5 games in the NFL, you're like, holy bleed, this is incredible. No one can do this, and then he's shelved. Mm-hmm. But they brought in Richie James. They kept MVS, and they kept Justin Watson. If you think of it as a roller coaster, they said you have to be this high to ride. You have to be better than these guys to see the field. Well, what did they find out? Found out Richie James is damn good. They found out he gets separation and has incredible hands. They found Justin Watson is a great special teamer. He can play all 3 wide receiver spots, right? And MVS is just a consistent NFL product. Oh, yeah, Rashee Rice, because you have these consistent floor players, you're able to go and try and hit on a high upside guy into Rashee Rice, right? Rashee Rice looked incredible. He had 1 drop. Travis Kelce was consoling him on the field, and what happened? He catches his next 8 passes for 96 yards. Like, you love to see it. Justin Ross, we know about all the injuries. We know about the spinal injury. We know about the foot injury, and I'm the first to admit, I was like, guys, I'm not seeing this with Justin Ross. I don't think we'll ever see it. It's the same people that kept going after Josh Gordon. I go, guys, he was great 5 years ago. Stop it, okay? I was athletic 5 years ago. Look at me now. I ain't getting rim, okay? So the point is, Justin Ross proved me wrong. I don't think he's going for a K, but I think he's a valuable piece and he brings something different to this team. You look at this entire wide receiving core. And by the way, I didn't even mention Sky Moore, who's going to probably lead this team in reception. Let's be real now. I think he fits the Juju role to a T. I've been saying that time and time again. I freaking love Sky Moore. Can't wait to see it. But what they did is they got a group of guys that all excel at a certain thing. It keeps teams on their toes. They have way more versatility than just having Tyreek Hill and then so-and-so behind him. They've spent their money and spread it out, more eggs and more baskets. That way, if Tyreek Hill's injured, they're not screwed, right? When Tyreek Hill was injured, that wide receiver room looked a little shaky. Look what you have now. You can go 8 deep. Amir Smith-Marset looks legit. You're telling me right now Amir Smith-Marset is going to be playing Sundays? You bet your ass he is. If he doesn't make the 53, he ain't being put on the practice squad. He's getting picked up. Commanders on line 1, the Bears on line 2. Like, the Chiefs have so much talent, a plethora of talent at wide receiver. I'm all in on this.
it was very encouraging to see Justin Ross actually go out there and do it, right? And that's just kind of the point that I had always brought up from my perspective. Listen, Sterling, I'm from Missouri, born and raised in Missouri. You got to show me, you know? You got to show me. If I'm going to believe it, I got to see it. Justin Ross went out there and he showed it to me. He showed me the route running. He showed me that catch ability. Getting to see him at training camp do that stuff with the pads on was one of the things that I wanted to see. Got to see it. Been very encouraged by that. Richie James, a guy that I went on your program and we were talking about Richie James in the offseason during free agency. Your guy, who I think is a very good special teamer in his own right. Right, he can return. That's kind of what the Chiefs are missing a little bit when it comes to the punt returning, the kick returning. Richie James comes in there, has some couple good returns.
In
the preseason game.
Back there.
Yeah,
he's smooth. Willie Mays, he's just like, nah, it's nothing. Let me just catch the rock over my shoulder. It was so smooth.
He's one of those guys that when I made my initial 53-man roster prediction before training camp, I only had them keeping 6 wide receivers, and I put Richie James over Justin Ross just because I knew that he actually had NFL experience doing special teams. And I think that obviously really helps us, that 5th and 6th wide receiver. We've talked about that a lot when it comes to roster building with the Chiefs. Dave Toub's going to have a say. If you can play special teams as that 5th and 6th wide receiver, that's really great. But I have been very impressed, and I'm cautiously optimistic about this wide receiver room now when it comes to them as a whole. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes makes them better, right? Like having a quarterback like that makes them better. Having Travis Kelce mixed in there alleviates, I think, some stress off of some guys. But as you mentioned, Sterling, Sky Moore has had the most boring preseason as anybody, because I think they're doing that on purpose. They don't want to let Sky Moore out of the bag. He wasn't making a bunch of flashy plays during training camp. He wasn't doing the one-on-one stuff, but when you see him making plays, he's going to be that solid, consistent guy that's always there. He's always going to be on time. He's always going to be on the same page with Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes even said he was like on his hip pocket the whole time when during the offseason, learning, trying to soak in everything he can about this offense. So I'm very excited about Sky Moore. I think that's going to be that could be a really big leap that we see this year. But overall, I've been very encouraged by what I've seen from the wide receivers.
Yeah, I said when people kept calling it bad on Twitter, I kept seeing people say they need DeAndre Hopkins. This wide receiver room is bad. I said they're not bad. They're unproven. Everyone starts somewhere. At some point, DeAndre Hopkins was bad too. I mean, think about it. I'm not saying he was bad, but he was unproven.
Right.
These guys are unproven. Until you get a shot, you have no idea what they're going to be. And again, the preseason and training camp is different than the regular season, and it's different than the playoffs. I get all that.
Mm-hmm.
But these guys have the talent. They have the upside. They have floor guys. And they all bring something different to the table that when they're not on, let's just say they're having a bad game. Well, MVS is still going to be able to be a field stretcher.
Right.
If Sky Moore is a little off, he's still good in the intermediate routes. If Richie James is off, he's still a good punt returner and good on those little pop passes that we've seen. We saw the preseason, we saw it at training camp. They were working on it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they all bring something to the table to where if one of them is off, it's not a big deal. The group as a whole can lift them up.
Right. And I think it's good that they're not relying on one guy to go out there and get them 100, 200, well, not 200, 150 yards a game, right?
But it's the same thing. If Tyreek had a bad game or got injured, you were sitting there scratching your head saying, all right, well, I guess Travis better go for 200, or I guess we'll go to next game.
You chalk that one up and be like, all right, we'll get him next time. But no, it's really interesting. And Sterling, we've talked about these wide receivers, right? We've brought up 7 names, 8 names. So you brought up Amir Smith-Marset, but we've brought up 7 names that we think that are going to be on the roster. We got to take another break, but after the break, I want to ask you about some roster building questions, and if you think the Chiefs will keep 7 wide receivers for the first time in the Andy Reid era. Stay with us. We'll be back on the other side.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network.
Hanging out with Sterling Holmes here on today's KCSN Update presented by DraftKings. You know Sterling from the Arrowhead Addict podcast, Stacking the Box podcast, Sports Radio 810 Kansas City, ESPN Kansas City. Did I miss anything, Sterling?
I also slang homes, sell real estate. Dude, I do everything, baby.
I got this playing in homes. Before the break, I asked you, Sterling, we've been talking wide receivers, big hot topic. We've talked about 7 wide receivers. The Andy Reid in the Kansas City Chiefs era with Andy Reid has not kept 7 wide receivers on his roster. Do you think, Sterling, that this is the year where 7 wide receivers find their way onto the active roster?
Yes, and I don't think Andy Reid likes it. I think there's just so much talent at wide receiver, they don't want to lose a guy. The Chiefs are pretty notorious for, if they have a talented guy, they'll cut a spot elsewhere. They keep the 53 most talented guys typically, with restraint. They're not keeping 17 wide receivers, but with restraint, right? They'll go, all right, he's too talented. We can keep him. Maybe we can practice squad. We can stash someone else. That's the way the Chiefs operate. And the other day, Andy Reid said 6 or 7 wide receivers, and that was the first time we had heard Andy Reid actually give credence to 7 wide receivers. I do think the Chiefs keep 7. Part of it is Kadarius Toney and the injury concerns. You're kind of sitting at a 6.5. Who knows if he gets placed on the IR and misses 4 games? Who really knows how they actually have the roster crunch breakdown? Maybe it's only 6 active on game day, but we'll see, man. There's just so much talent there. The Chiefs, I think, the wide receivers are pushing their hand.
Absolutely, and I think that's kind of the biggest thing. That is Justin Ross, Richie James. Both of those guys playing well did force the hand of the Chiefs to feel like they have to keep 7 wide receivers. If they cut Justin Ross, if they cut Richie James, they're getting picked up. They're not going to find their way on the active roster. You mentioned Amir Smith-Marset. I don't think he can make the roster. I really don't. It stinks because he put on quite a show. He played all right for the Vikings up there in Minnesota in the few games he did play. He's going to be on another team. I think Nate Taylor tweeted this out, is going to benefit from the Chiefs developing Amir Smith-Marset. Wouldn't be the first time. It won't be the last time that'll happen. There's just too many cooks in the kitchen in that wide receiver room to keep Amir Smith-Marset as well. So if you talk about keeping 7 wide receivers, Sterling, that means there's going to be somewhere where Andy Reid traditionally keeps a guy that we're not going to see when you talk about the offensive line, whether that's the quarterback room, whether that's the running back room, the tight end room. Where do you think that comes from?
Well, you wonder if again, everyone's going to always say fullback, right? So there's the one. But the Chiefs, I think, keep 3 wide receivers. A little caveat here so people know, those 3 wide receivers still count against the 53-man roster, but they don't count against the active 46 game day roster. That third one's kind of a free, but you still have to have all 3 on the 53-man. So the Chiefs could technically still only keep 2. I just doubt it. They're going to keep 4 running backs. The attrition of running backs is just too much. They have also guys who've been banged up many times in their career, with McKinnon, obviously earlier on in his career, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and Isaiah Pacheco just getting the non-contact jersey lifted. Is it Eric Prince? Is it Michael P. Ryan? I think that remains to be seen. 3 tight ends or 4. That's kind of the one it comes down to. Does Matt Bushman make it? Does he not make it with Jody Fortson getting placed on the season-ending IR? If you're placed on the IR before August 30th, you're done. No coming back, no 4, 8, 12, whatever it is, you're done. Okay? So Jody Fortson, the season in Kansas City is done. And my ones I have done, I have him keeping 4 running backs, 4 tight ends, including Matt Bushman, 7 wide receivers, 9 offensive linemen, and 9 defensive linemen. Okay? That's where I've drawn the line. Is as much as I don't think the defensive line is very good, I couldn't find a way of keeping Malik Herring. I couldn't find a way of keeping a depth piece like Joshua Kando. I just couldn't do it. That's the way it broke down, especially with the offensive line having Wanya Morris be able to play left and right tackle. That helps Kansas City tremendously. So I broke it down that way. I think I had 4 linebackers and 10 defensive backs.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's really interesting when you talk about the quarterback situation and like they're going to keep 2, they're going to keep 3, giving Sony Bouchel some run, and then it even sounds like Bouchel is getting a little bit of buzz for that second quarterback spot. I don't know. I don't know how much I'm buying into all that. Truthfully, I think it makes sense. He does have more experience with the offense, better relationship with Patrick Mahomes, but Blaine Gabbert is that veteran that they like to have in that room. A guy that I think that can come in and win and go do a drive for you, right? He he can put a drive together for you. I don't know if I trust Shane Buechele to put together a drive. Could he do it? Absolutely, because Shane's a gamer, man. Shane goes out there and he balls. But it's going to be very interesting to see. I've been thinking about this, Sterling, about 3 running backs. I don't know. It seems like in recent weeks the Deneric Prince hype has cooled. It seems like the training kind of slowed down a bit. LaMichael Pirine getting a little bit more run, a little bit more reps in the position that Deneric Prince has been in. But listen, at practice they were in a kind of a weird bind with like Isaiah Pacheco not having contact. Clyde Edwards-Helaire was like in and out being sick. Jerick McKinnon, it seems like they've kind of relegated him to like the third down duties type of deal with Jerick McKinnon in this role and this time in his career. So like they only really had 3 running backs to run during team practices when we were out there at training camp. So it was like, oh, you're seeing Zach Prince get a whole lot of run with the ones, and you're like, yeah, because that's the only running back that they could have run with the ones. So
it was generic or it was Tucker. They didn't have any options. So.
They just throw some pads on me. But yeah, you're right. They didn't have very many options. So I'm trying to like put all that into my brain, right, and melt it all down of like taking all the context into it. I don't know. 3 running backs maybe make sense. Maybe they feel like they can get Deneric on the practice squad. If they cut him, they can put him on the practice squad. That could be an area. And I also think offensive line, as you mentioned, is an area that they can look at and say, oh, we could probably it'd probably be Lucas Niang, I think, is the guy that would be the odd man out if they do keep 8 or 9. I can't remember what it would be. But again, tight end is the other position. Jody Fortson going on the IR, as you mentioned. The way that his IR works, though, Sterling, is really interesting. Somebody had brought this up to me, and I didn't know until I looked it up. So the fact that he is a restricted free agent, he can be placed on the IR, and then the Chiefs can injury waive him. He clears waivers. I think they did injury waive him already, and he cleared waivers. He'd have to re-sign with the Chiefs, have to get fully healthy, and then he could return for the season. All that to say, it's incredibly unlikely for him to return because I think he even posted on his story of like, yeah, I've got to go get surgery on my shoulder, so I'm not going to be playing this year. But like, technically he could come back, but I don't think it's very likely. It would be interesting to see the Chiefs not carry 4 tight ends though. And I think that would be a very interesting part of it.
So when I broke this down, I actually pulled up the sheet I have of my initial 53-man roster. You could have 3 quarterbacks, 4 running backs, 6 wide receivers while you wait for Kadarius Toney.
Yep.
Okay. So if you push that down the road, and the reason why I have that starting with 6, I keep 5 linebackers at the start of the season with Jack Conklin. That was how I had it broken down. So once Kadarius Toney comes back, this equation becomes much, much more difficult. It comes down to, in my opinion, Prince or Pirine, Matt Bushman, or I think it could even be Jack Conklin, special teams wise.
Yeah, and you start to think about you mentioned the Kadarius Toney wrinkle that could be put into this is he has to make the 53-man roster, right? He's got to make the 53-man roster. They're not going to place him on IR right now because the season would be done. If he makes a 53-man roster automatically, somebody's going to have to get cut that we don't expect to get cut, and then we'll be side back. So that could be like a Jack Conklin, right?
That was my thought process, was more of a special teamer like a Jack Conklin, could probably be cut, could be brought back once they figure out Kadarius Toney in the injury. Because we've not really heard a ton on that front. All we heard was a couple of days ago, not tomorrow, which is very Shanahan when asked if Jimmy G was going to be the quarterback on Sunday. Are we all going to be alive on Sunday? That was the all-time quote from Shanahan. So, yeah, we're not getting much from Andy. At least it's not day-to-day.
At least it's not. That's got to look at the silver lining on that one. At least it's not day-to-day. No, this is all very interesting. Another injury we're not talking about that I'm somewhat alarmed we're not talking about is L'Jarius Sneed's injury. Why is he not practiced yet?
I don't know.
Are you nervous? Are you nervous about it? Am I overreacting?
I don't think you're overreacting. I think I'm in the minority here of I'm not nervous, though. I love L'Jarius Sneed. He brings a lot to this defense. But I think the Chiefs are okay without him. Like, I like L'Jarius a lot. It's not a knock on L'Jarius Sneed. I just think there's so much depth in the secondary, and Spagnuolo and just all the coordinators have him running at such a high level. I think they're okay. Yeah. We're seeing Shamari Connor, while a lot different than L'Jarius Sneed. The versatility is similar. L'Jarius Sneed ran a 4.3. Shamari Connor ran a 4.5. So there is a speed difference there. It's why I think Shamari Connor fits better as a safety. But you're seeing him doing some of the L'Jarius Sneed blitzes, right? Like, I think there's so much depth in the secondary in so many different ways they can try and reproduce that production. I think the Chiefs are going to be okay letting him get fully healthy before trying to rush him back. So no, in any sense, I'm not really worried about this, although I understand people's concern with it.
Yeah. All right, Sterling, I appreciate you joining me on today's episode of KCS Update. Before we let you go, I want to know what you're looking for in this final preseason game. I know there's not going to be a lot of marquee players playing. I think Deshaun Watts actually said on Thursday that he plans on playing in the game, which is good for him. But anyway, what are you looking forward to in this final preseason game?
No injuries. Such an asshole thing to say. I hate saying that, man. That's such a... Gosh, I hate that. No injuries. Well, yeah, but it's so cheesy. I hate myself for saying that. But no injuries. I want to see some of the defensive line. Who steps up? Because I think there's a chance you could see, Wiseman make it. There's a chance you could see some unheralded guy, Malik Herring, might make it. There's a chance. I'm not saying it's likely, but Derek Nottie, for example, I don't think his spot's set in stone. Turk Warden, we don't know with his knees. I think the defensive line is what I'll probably be watching more than anything else.
Absolutely. I'm right there with you. The D-line has got a lot of questions and needs answered. And a little apprehensive about that first game of the season against the Detroit Lions. Final game of the preseason. It'll be Saturday at noon. A noon Saturday game, Sterling. That's like, we're talking college football territory right here with this preseason game.
Yeah, they're getting you ready. They're getting you ready for the Mizzou games. I can't wait to be let down by Mizzou this year. It's going to be outstanding. I can't wait to get hurt.
A tradition unlike any other, truthfully. Missouri going 6-6 and losing a bowl game.
Oh, yeah. Can't wait for Luther Burden to not get a single target in the game again. It's going to be great. No, I can't wait.
That's Sterling Holmes. I'm Tucker Franklin. Thank you for joining us today on today's KCS Update presented by DraftKings. We'll be back with a live post-game show following the Chiefs and Browns preseason game. We'll be with you here at KCSN, so make sure you subscribe, you follow us, you do all that good stuff so you don't miss anything we got going for you here. I'll be back again with another episode soon, so until then, I will talk to you guys later.